Hi guys, so we're here to finish up the circle vocabulary that you're going to need to know for this lesson. So first we're going to talk about angles and arcs this time. So first of all, let's just talk about angles in general for a second. So here's an angle. The angle has a vertex point. That's the point right here, like the tip of the arrow if this was, some sort of arrow or point here. And then these A and C, these are going to be end points. These are just out here on the ends. So A, C, end points. B is our vertex point. Okay? Angles have measures. So see, like this would be maybe a 45-degree angle. You can also measure angles in what are called radians. We are going to get into radians in this unit, but not in this lesson. So don't worry about radians too much yet. We'll talk about them in another lesson. So, okay, angles have measures. Now let's talk a little bit about naming an angle. When you name an angle, you're giving someone directions. You're telling them where to start, where to go next, and then where to end. So it's just kind of like how we were naming the lines, how the lines that said, hey, start here, go to here, or, the line segments. And then with the line, I said, okay, use the line that has these 2 points on it. It's the same sort of idea. And just like with the lines versus line segments, there was either just a straight line or there was a line with arrows on both ends. In geometry, we always give a little symbol of some kind to tell everybody what kind of shape we're naming, because we're using the same points over and over again, so we have to give everyone a clue into what is it we're naming. So with angles, we use this little angle symbol here. So I'm saying, okay, I'm naming an angle, and I want you to start at A, go to B, then end at C. So I know starting out, this is going to be an angle, and I say, okay, start at A, draw a line to B, okay, finish up at C. Okay, that is the angle we are talking about. So that's how you name an angle. You will notice one important thing. The vertex point is always this middle letter. So even though in this case it is alphabetical order, it's not the same thing like it was with lines and line segments where we really prefer to do alphabetical order. With angles, the order is very important because it matters what direction you start, where you go second, and where you go in the middle, because it will completely change your angle if you put these in the wrong order. So it's not as strictly alphabetical order at all. Okay, so for example, let's do some practice here, naming a couple angles. So A, F, E. Oh, because you can see here we're starting out with F and E are out of alphabetical order, but this is why. Because what I'm telling you is first, okay, we're going to be making an angle. Second, I want you to start at point A. See, point A is blue. Then I want you to walk down to point F. And then from point F, I want you to walk to point E. And so once you walk to point E, you have created the angle we are talking about. So if I tell you that that has a measure or anything about that angle, you know we're talking about this right here, okay? And then let's try another one, okay? I want you to pause the video for just a second, and I want you to try finding this angle right here, angle BFC. So go ahead and hit the pause button. Okay, I'm assuming you did, and that you're hitting play again now. Okay, so we're going to start at point B, then we're going to walk to F, okay, and then from F, we're going to walk back to C, all right? Okay, so if you ever have trouble with the naming of angles, come back to the slide, okay? All right, let's talk about an arc for just a second here. An arc is this line right here, this kind of arc that you can draw between the 2 endpoints of an angle. Okay, this becomes important with circles because of what is called an intercepted arc. This is one of your vocab terms. So let's look right here. You see I've got kind of dotted lines on the outside of the circle. Woo, right there. So the outside of the circle is also called the circumference. Circles tend to like to have their own words. I mean, in any other shape, like a triangle or a rectangle, parallelogram, anything like that, we would call it a perimeter. which if I told you to like guard the perimeter or walk the perimeter of something, you know, you'd be walking just to the outside. So the circumference of a circle is basically the circle's perimeter. It's just this outside, so just right exactly where you see those dashed blue lines, okay? So the circumference of the circle is like the circle's entire arc, so the entire arc of the circle. And so if we put an angle here, we have intercepted or hit that arc, okay? So an intercepted arc is just when I create an angle and it cuts into this full arc or circumference of the circle, okay? So that red line right there is an intercepted arc. And then we're going to talk about right here how to name it. So the angle name, I would either name it BCA, or if you've caught on, I could also name it ACE. I could start at either end point. Since we do tend towards alphabetical order when we can, I would generally go with ACB, but it really doesn't matter. Both of these would be correct. And then when I name an arc, it's going to be a lot like the line segments were. There's going to be kind of a little twist when we start measuring them, but don't worry about it. Basically, I'm telling you where to start and where to finish. And just like I said, they all have their own little symbol. So arcs have this little kind of roof above them. It'll look different based on how it's drawn, because especially when it's printed, because computers kind of find different ways to draw this. Basically, it's just a line that goes up and line that goes down. So it's kind of like, you know, like either a mouth that's going to eat the two letters, or if you think about it, the arc would be drawn right there between that angle. So that's how you tell somebody, okay, we're going to be drawing an arc. And then they look down and they say, okay, it's going to be between A and B. All right? All right, and now we're going to be working with two different types of angles in this unit, okay? So the first angle is going to be called a central angle, and then we're also going to be working with inscribed angles. And then we're going to be talking about the intercepted arcs they create in later lessons, but first I want you to know what these two things are. So a central angle is when the vertex is right here at the center, okay? The endpoints are always going to be, I'll bring up this thing, so the endpoints on all of the angles that we are going to care about and that we are going to work with are always going to be out here on the circumference, okay? We're not going to throw you something weird where like the angle is like starts here and goes here, because that's just not what we're getting into in this unit. So central angles are where I have my two endpoints here on the circumference or the outer edge, and then my vertex, this middle point here, is at the center. Okay, center, central angle. An inscribed angle is where all 3 points are here on that outer edge, okay? All 3 points are part of that circumference. So the vertex is part of the circumference. That's an inscribed angle. It's inscribed all the way through. It doesn't stop at the center, it goes all the way through. And you may note that this created 2 chords here, if you remember the last lesson. Okay, so let's practice these terms for a second. Okay, so I want you to pause the video, and then I want you to name at least two of each, one of them, there is only 2 of them, of intercepted arcs, central angles, and inscribed angles. And I want you to actually write down your answers somewhere, just even on a little piece of scratch paper, because it will really help you to see, you know, what you're getting right and what you're getting wrong. And again, this is just for you, and so that then later you know what questions to ask, okay? So go ahead and pause. All right, and I'm going to assume we're back now. So for the intercepted arcs, again, see the little house thing, so that tells me, okay, this is going to be an arc. I have either A, B, B, C, C, D, D, E. And this is one thing we haven't really talked about yet. As far as intercepted arcs go, we go from one point to the next point. We're not going to go AC with this B point in the middle. When we're just talking about an intercepted arc, we want to just go from one point to the point directly adjacent to it, or one point that's directly next to it, okay? So when you're naming your intercepted arcs, go with that. Oh, and there's EA here is also another option for intercepted arcs, okay? For central angles, okay, we know that F has to be our vertex. So we can only use lines that are coming off of F. So I've got B, F, C. I've also got C, F, E as a central angle. And then technically, a straight line is an angle. So BFE is an angle. It's 45 degrees. Or sorry, 45 degrees. It is 180 degrees. I apologize. My mind was stuck on the first slide there. All right, and now let's name inscribed angles. So for an inscribed angle, remember you're going to have all points connected to dots here on the outside. So I have A, D, E as an option. And I also have D, E, B. You could do B, E, D. Either way, it's kind of a fun one because it either spells Deb or it spells bed. But so that one's kind of fun. All right, and for bonus, go ahead and pause for a second and name me a radius, a diameter, and a chord. All right. Here's some answers for you. So we've got anything that's coming from the center to the outside is going to be a radius. So these are our radii. We got BF, CF, EF. For the diameter, I only have one line that's going through the center and all the way across. And remember, I'm not going to stop at F. I want to go B to E since it's a diameter. Okay? And then for chords, I've got this AD because it goes from one end clear to the other end, but it doesn't go through the center. And then I've got DE, which also goes from one end to the other of the circle, but it does not go through the center. All right, definitely write down any questions you have so you can ask them in class. Thanks, guys.